I'm John Schmeelk. He is Paul Dottino. We're taking your calls at 201-939-4513. Hashtag Giants Chat on Twitter if you want to get in touch with us that way. You certainly can. Paul Dottino, beautiful day out there today, man.
It is a fantastic Friday.
Starting to feel like spring.
Man, oh man, the sun is out. I think it's going to be in the mid-70s today. And, of course, the glare of those rays is even better after the Knicks win.
Yeah, good win last night. Don't celebrate too much. Still a lot of work to do.
No doubt.
You had to win 3 games in a row, but all you could do last night was win 1.
Yes.
They won 1, and now you move on to Game 6, and you hope you can make some noise in Indianapolis when they hit Indiana. And probably, Paul, aside from that Game 6 against Boston, which, you knew that was going to be tough too, the Knicks are going to have to play their best game of the year to beat that Pacer team in their building with a chance to go to the NBA Finals on the line. So just go in there, play a good basketball game, and let the chips fall. They may.
Yeah, I just got done talking to Johnny Mack before you came in, John, and I said the Knicks played very well last night, but they still had moments where they were sloppy with the ball.
And they didn't shoot that well.
They didn't shoot great, and they had moments also where they had some really dumb fouls as well.
Yep. No,
So,
absolutely.
It wasn't a perfect game.
I don't know when Benedict Mathurin, the guy, got calls like he's did Michael Jordan in the late 90s, by the way, with the number of calls he was getting in that game, which I thought
That is true.
My goodness, it was crazy.
That is true.
All right, so folks, what we'll do today, we've seen a week of OTAs here, so I thought Paul and I would go through kind of what our biggest questions are about OTAs, what we're watching, what we should think about as we move forward here. I thought that was kind of a good way to wrap up the first week. Paul and I have watched 3 days worth of practices. The first day there wasn't a whole lot, so there's not much to talk about that day.
No.
But we have seen the last 2, including what happened today. So I thought it would be good to do that. And then, of course, we'll open up the phones and we'll take your calls at 201-939-4513. Johnny Mack online here. Brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. We're in the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. So, Paul, I guess the first thing I kind of want to look at and the thing that interests me the most is where guys line up. And this is something that there are NFL rules where you can't report this sort of thing. So
Right.
I hesitate to, lead with that, but I do think it's important, especially across the offensive line. And I think what we've seen, without getting into details, is that the young guys have been moved around to a lot of different spots. And I'm talking about guys on their rookie contracts, not just the rookie class like DeMarcus Bowes, but guys have been moved around a lot. We've seen Evan Neal, to Dable's point, and he talked about this, so we could talk about it.
Yes.
He's played guard over the course of OTAs this week. Bo has started out as tackle, the same way they talked about how he would. Josh Azudu's been all over the place. He's been outside. He's been inside, I think, more so than outside, but he's been there. So they've moved the guys in a lot of different spots, and I think they're trying to build depth at that position, which we all know how important that is, right? Trying to make sure that that gets squared away.
The Azudu one puzzles me, John. And I don't know if you've spoken to somebody about it. I haven't yet. I would like to have that conversation, to be honest with you, with Carmen Brasillo, because I thought one of the things that held Azudu back early in his career is that when he was at North Carolina, he was constantly bouncing around to all of the different offensive line positions. So you know what they say, jack of all trades, master of none? I think that was the case with Azudu. And he came to the Giants, and they drafted him with the projection that he'd be a starting guard. Well, then because of injuries, but then also because of other things that were necessary along the line, he started getting bounced around again here like he was with the Tar Heels. I don't know. I honestly don't know what his best position is anymore because he's gone all over the place.
Look, I'm not a football genius or an offensive line coach by any means. I mean, from what we've seen, is he a tackle?
I don't think so.
Well, so what does that tell you?
But they've had him.
I know, but I
play
think
some tackle.
But he's played more guard this week than he did all offseason last year.
Yes. And that's what I hope he lands at.
Yes.
I hope he is given a legitimate opportunity to compete at guard with some of those other fellas, and we know who they are. There's Runyon, there's Stinney. Evan Neal obviously is now a guard. So there's, Kubas. There's going to be competition at guard, and I want there to be. I want that to be a full-fledged battle royal between 4 or 5 guys so that the Giants can pick out. Greg Van Roten's in there too. I want the 2 best guys out of those 6 guys to win. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, you're playing the best guys. You're going to get your best 5 on the field in whatever position you got to get them into. And I think the way I described Greg Van Roten earlier in the week, Paul, is that he's to me your stopgap. No, I shouldn't say stopgap. He's your fallback, right? Like, you know what he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that if you need to play him, you can start him. You're going to feel good about it because he does a nice job when he's out there. He's going to be reliable. He's going to fill his assignment. He's a leader. He's smart. He's still a good football player. And that's the guy that's Mr. Reliable, where if all else fails, you have Greg Van Roten back, you can plug him in as a starter. But if one of those young guys can step up and show that they're better, and then Van Roten can be your swing backup or, however else you want to use him, that I think would be ideal. But the other guys are going to have to show that they're better than Greg Van Roten because right now they haven't done that so far.
No, and I hope not only does that happen with one guy, I hope there's at least 2 guys who are better because what I'd like to see Van Roten be is the number 2 center on this team.
Right.
I'd like him to be the backup center who could play guard if you're depleted so far along that, your depth chart just doesn't have anybody else to play guard. I'd like him to be the backup center. Because, quite honestly, that's a very, very, very cerebral position.
Well, I think even if he starts at guard, I think he is the backup center.
Yeah, but...
You know what I mean?
But I want somebody else to win the backup guard spot so he can just concentrate on being the backup center.
win the starting job spot?
Yes.
Starting guard spot.
Yes, the starting guard spot. I would like one of those guys to... 2 starting guards. I'd like Van Roten to be the swing backup, where he could be a backup center primarily and be a backup guard if you need him to be. I hope that the Giants have enough of guys who they can put out there on the field in week 1 and say, these are our starting 5, these are our best guys, and I hope that he's not one of them. I would like him to be the swing backup. I think he's more valuable to the Giants as a swing backup, but you have to have other guys step forward to be good enough to be starters first.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Right. And one of the young guys has to prove they can do that. And
for sure.
By the way, we talk about OTA questions, but I really did not start off with the right thing here. You're not going to figure that out in OTAs because there's no pads, there's no contact.
I know.
This is just getting guys comfortable in those spots. That's something that's going to get worked out once the pad comes on to training camp. You have joint practices, and you end up having preseason games. That's when you're going to figure that
the
stuff out.
The only thing you have now is the bookwork, right? You can't tell because they're not hitting anybody. Mm-hmm. But by all means, when coaches out there and they're running these non-contact plays, alignment and assignment is still something that if the guy's not lined up right, or it looks like when he's supposed to be blocking, even though they can't follow through on the block, if he's looking at the wrong guy or he goes the wrong way, that's not good. He's supposed to still motion into the right play.
Yes, you can tell if guys are assignment sound at this time of year.
That's an issue.
No, that's true.
So there is some way to at least preliminarily, if that's a word.
No, it is. Preliminarily is a word.
Okay,
that's a word.
You can somewhat give an early grade to how these guys are at least picking this stuff up mentally so that it looks like they know what they're doing. That in itself will give some of these guys a way to kind of differentiate themselves.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I think that's how you do it. All right, so give me your top thing, or what are the top things you're looking for?
Well, my big thing, and it kind of piggybacks a tad off the offensive line, John. I would like to see what the Giants' deep passing game was going to be like. And if the offensive line doesn't protect properly, that's not going to happen.
Another thing we haven't been able to tell in the first week because they're only doing red zone drills.
Exactly.
Me and you have really done well our first 2 topics.
I know.
We haven't been able to see anything yet.
But this is what we want to see. The question was about what are you curious about or what do you want to see? That's what I want to see. I want to see how well the Giants' deep passing game is going to be as it supposedly gets resuscitated with Russell Wilson and the Giants' apparently more explosive offense. Now, here's the interesting thing for me about that concept. We were talking about this yesterday a little bit with Lance. And here's the thing, John. Russell Wilson holds the ball a long time. He does it for a number of reasons. One, because he doesn't want to throw interceptions and screw up, right? He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to give the ball away. So he will take a lot of sacks. He always has. But here's the thing. We know what Neighbors can do. We still haven't unwrapped Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt, for me, is such an X factor. Are they finally going to be able to flip the switch on this guy and bless you, and see him in his third NFL season? Because time's running out. The sand is starting to drip out of the hourglass now on Jalen Hyatt.
Well, it's funny. In Fact or Fiction, which is on the website today, I'm not sure if it's up yet, and that was one of the questions. And I said, look, you never want to call anything a make or break year, but
it's time.
If receivers don't hit by their third year, they usually don't hit.
I mean, he is what I have called for years a show-me player. And you know I've been using that phrase for a long time. Yeah. He's a show-me player. Jalen Hyatt, show me that you are what the Giants thought you were when they took you in the third round, when they went to go get you. Show me what you are supposed to be as a pro, and do it now, because in the first 2 years, we haven't seen nearly enough of it. If he can do that, John, all of a sudden, this passing attack with Russell Wilson becomes a whole lot better.
I'm with you. All right, so I'm going to go the opposite of that then. I want to see the secondary be around the ball more. Not a lot of easy catches, not a lot of that sort of stuff. So I think that's important, Paul, especially what we saw last year with too many balls going over their heads and things of that nature. And I think through the first couple of practices where they've had competitive periods, they've been
better.
Yeah, they haven't been. Again, it's red zone. It's tight area. You're not going to be playing softer zone in the red zone, so you can only see so much, right? But I think for the most part, we've seen tighter coverage. Holland and Newman have been, I think, where they're supposed to be. I want to see those safeties work in tandem. And you never want to say, I want to see my quarterbacks throw interceptions, but I'd like to see these guys get their hands on the football and turn the ball over a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. You have probably said this more often than any of the hosts on this program. You can't predict turnovers. You just can't. They don't carry over, and there's no way to really, fortune tell if you're going to get them. And that's true. It's absolutely true. Now, there are ways you can play with the talent level you have, with the scheme you have, the work that the guys do up front to get pressure on a quarterback that can lend better conditions that can make turnovers more possible. That can happen. That is true. You can set yourself up to a situation where you've got a better chance to get them, but it doesn't mean you will get them.
And here's what I don't want to see, though, Paul. Turnovers, fine. If the quarterbacks don't throw interceptions, that's a good thing for the team. Here's what I don't want to see. No receivers running free in the secondary.
Oh, for sure.
None of that. That's, to your point with the offensive line, that's assignment football, right?
Yeah.
Be locked in. Know your assignments.
Yep.
Look, if you get beat one-on-one, a guy gets a couple steps in separation or whatever, that happens. That's the NFL.
Yeah.
But no guys running free. No defensive backs, pointing at you I don't want to see that.
And I saw some of that last year.
Right, but we haven't seen it so far this year.
No.
And I think that's why they went out and they brought in a lot of these veterans in for agency. So you're not going to have the pointing and the conversations and the shrugging of the shoulders and the what? You're supposed to be there. Who's supposed to be here? I don't know. Who's supposed to be on that guy? I don't know. You don't want to see that, right? So I think
Agreed.
That's, to me, one of the big things here. Can the secondary get that stuff locked in? And I think, by the way, that's why you brought in two extremely smart and intelligent players in Holland and Adebo to cut that stuff out. Adebo, by the way, had an interception today. High pointed the ball, made a nice play on the right sideline. We had a couple interceptions earlier in the week, too. One by Bike and McFadden. I'm trying to remember who the first one was. And I don't remember who the first one was.
Was it Newman? I'm forgetting myself.
It was off a deflection. Was it Drew Phillips? What was the interception that went off the wide receiver's chest and then went to the defensive back?
I don't remember Phillips grabbing one. I thought it was Newman, but I could be wrong.
You could have been. I don't remember.
I honestly...
It's in my practice report. Go read it on
there you go.
Giants.com.
That's right. Well, because you know what it is? Honestly, it's hard to be really attentive during these plays because they're not
correct
real plays.
Right.
And it's so you take a lot of stuff with a grain of salt, and it's okay, was that not? Oh, whatever. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, those are the main things for me. Obviously, you want to see the quarterbacks, look like, you want to see Jaxson Dart look like he's comfortable and he's in rhythm.
He throws the ball nice, John.
He throws it all right.
He throws the ball nice. He's got a nice spin on the ball. He's got a nice spiral.
He throws a very catchable ball.
Yes.
It doesn't have a ton ton of juice on it. Like Daniel Jones would let it loose and it would rip faster than what Dart does.
Yeah.
Right? But he throws and I talked about this one when we scouted him during the draft process. He has very nice touch on the ball. We've already seen him try a couple back shoulder throws, which I know you're probably very excited about. And, I think you've seen that. But look, they're still looking around, holding the ball, trying to figure out where to go with it, which is what you expect as a rookie in his first week of practices against real NFL defenses. So that'll come, and you want to see it come as we go along here. 2
days ago, right? Today's Friday, so Wednesday, during Wednesday's practice, there was that one play. I don't know if you recall it. It was early in the deep red zone where Dart must have looked to 4 different receivers before he finally got rid of the ball. It was one of the early snaps. And I'll be frank with you. I was glad to see that. He didn't panic. He didn't just throw it to the first or the second guy and force it into a bad spot. He also didn't eat the ball.
Yeah.
He waited. And you know what? Now, under normal circumstances, maybe he doesn't have time to look for 4 guys. I get that. Under a real pass rush, maybe they get him.
But you like to see him go through his progression.
Yeah.
And I'm with you.
And that, to me, for him to be doing that this early, that made me feel good.
And I forgot if it was either Orlovsky or Chase Daniel in the Giants Huddle podcast. You guys should go check that out. It's on the YouTube channel, Giants
definitely.
app. Good interviews. Did you have the time to go through all those yet, by the way?
I went through 2 of them.
The Warner one you haven't done yet?
I went through Warner, and I went through Orlovsky.
You got to do Daniel still. He was very good.
Haven't done him
I
yet.
forget which one of them said it, but they said one of the things they liked best about Dart, he never looked panicked in the pocket. Like, he kind of always, he would run it, but it would be like, all right, that's part of the plan here. Like, it would never be like, I'm running, I'm getting chased, and I'm flustered, I don't know what to do with the football. So that was one of the things that the quarterbacks looked at that they really liked.
And you could, again, folks, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but Jaxson Dart carries himself on the field and off the field, at least in his limited time with the Giants, like he belongs. He doesn't look like a rookie who has been thrown into the deep end of the pool and is sucking water. He doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've seen enough to make that judgment one way or the other.
Right, under real conditions,
has it been ugly where he's throwing the ball right to the defense every other play? No, it hasn't looked like that.
I'll give you a good example. Eli Manning gets here for his first ever rookie camp back in 2004. Pat Hanlon still talks about this. He loves to break my horns about it. First ever rookie camp, first ever practice for Eli Manning. He gets out on the grass field outside the old Giants Stadium, and it's windy out. And he's throwing wounded ducks and shot puts all over the place.
Yeah, it hasn't looked like that.
He can't hit anybody, okay? Can't hit anybody. He looks awful. I go on the air that afternoon doing my report as I was the Giants beat guy for one of the local sports radio stations.
You can say the station. It's okay.
Well, not now.
We're not on the air for them right now.
Yeah, but it's not the Giants flagship, so I don't want to, right? Branding, right? You don't want me to talk about branding.
That's fair.
And I'm on the station, and I proceed to tell people about how poorly he threw the ball. Wobblers, dying ducks, wide overthrows. It was really ugly. It was a terrible, terrible practice. And I compared him to Dave Brown, one of the other former Giants quarterbacks who was here, who had a lot of accuracy issues and really had trouble spinning the ball and throwing it tight and, getting those darts from the pocket. It was ugly. And I compared him to Dave Brown. So at the end of that afternoon, I'm walking back to my car, and Hanlon comes out of the office, gets in his vehicle, and comes driving up to me as I'm walking back to my practice, and he screams out, Dottino, you're talking about Dave Brown, huh? Dave Brown, is that what you said about Eli Manning? Yes, Pat, that's what I saw. All right, we'll see. For years after that, he has reminded me of how I equated Eli Manning's first practice to Dave Brown. He never let me forget it. So
I'm surprised he drove next to you and didn't try to run you over with the car.
Well, there was a curb in the way. So my point being to you is this. It's not worth a hill of beans necessarily, but the first impression that we've gotten from Jaxson Dart is good. That much I can say.
It has. It had. Look, I don't judge anything good or bad this early in OTAs. But
Understood.
No red flags have been raised for me where I'm like, all right, this is a problem.
Mm-hmm. I concur. And the other thing that surprises me, and I don't know if you talked about it with Matt the other day. We mentioned it yesterday briefly. Do you notice how Russell Wilson is trying to endear himself to all the players on the roster?
Yep.
Both units, not just offense or defense, even special teams. He's going out of his way to talk guys up, to give them high fives, to give them a fist pump, to have conversation with them. Russell Wilson has made a very concerted attempt, a concentrated attempt is the word I was looking for.
I think both words work.
Okay. To ingratiate himself to the rest of this locker room. I think he understands that he's bringing a Hall of Fame pedigree here to a team that's trying to get back to respectability. And as the quarterback, I think he's embracing that leadership role to say, look, I have won a Super Bowl. I've been to a couple of them. I'm the guy who can show you the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think he's very much trying to get everybody on the same train. And I admire him for that. I really do, because he's going out of his way to do it. And not every quarterback would necessarily do that with all the guys in the locker room.
No, look, he is shown that he's able to be a leader, and I think he's done a good job with that. And by the way, the secondary again was very good today. Our Green had almost 3 pass breakups just in one period. In today's practice, Raheem Lane had a couple good plays. Chauncey Golston got in the backfield. And they did a competitive period today, too, where the 2 play callers were kind of both calling plays, offense and defense, and they were kind of live with the situation. And everything was high red zone today between the 11 and 20-yard line. And they were basically saying, all right, you have 3 downs to try to get the ball in the end zone. They even had a clock involved where they're doing like end of quarter, end of half stuff. So it was some good competitive stuff. I would say the defense probably a little bit ahead of the offense right now, which again is not surprising at this point in practice. But Russell Wilson threw a touchdown pass to Zach Pascal. Jaxson Dart had a couple of touchdown passes early in practice. Little Jordan Humphrey caught one of them. Look at my notes who got the other one, but I think the other one, he threw a couple touchdown passes. So, overall, the offense is getting there. I think the defense has done a nice job. I've liked what I've seen out of the secondary. Drew Phillips forced an incompletion like I talked about. So, just some good plays. 81-8. I know, the undrafted rookie free agent out of Notre Dame caught a touchdown. Bo Collins caught one, too, from Jaxson Dart. So, just basically, it's been fine. And nothing has jumped out as a huge red flag or a huge green light go.
Right.
The first week has been fine. And look, the whole key is not overreact to anything you see in the spring, and we're not going to do that here.
No question. I think the good thing is that when I was talking to Brian Baldinger, who was up here the other day, 2 days ago at the OTA session.
Check out my huddle with him from last week, by the way. It's up there.
There you go. The thing that Brian and I were most satisfied with as we were watching the other day is that there were no alarms and red flags. You didn't see anybody getting pulled to the side and scolded by a coach because they made some boneheaded decision or boneheaded mistake. And that's really, to be honest with you folks, if you're watching from the sideline and you don't know the plays and you don't know what's going on inside the operation, how are we supposed to know? We can't, all right? The one thing you can see is if a guy has bad body language because he looks lost, because he doesn't seem to know what he's doing, or if a coach basically rips him, whatever, because he was doing something wrong and did it a second time, or maybe he didn't listen. I'm not seeing any of that so far, which is a good start.
Yep, I think so too. All right, 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Hashtag Giants Chat on Twitter. Let's go to Dominic in Florida. He will lead us off today. Hey, Dominic.
Hey, guys. Long-time listener, first-time caller. How you guys doing?
Doing great, man. What's going on?
Hey, I just wanted to talk about Jalen Hyatt real quick and then a little piece about the O-line. It seems like if your name isn't Andrew Thomas or Dexter Lawrence, that you're not really going to get a second contract or an extension. So what do you think it's going to take from Jalen Hyatt, whether it's playtime or, yards, where he would, get that second contract?
I don't think you can start thinking about second contract until you start putting up something during the regular season. He's had 2 nondescript years so far. How about he work himself into the passing rotation to where he becomes a significant factor this year? Then you can start worrying about what's going to happen to him down the road. But right now, goal number one for Jalen Hyatt, he's got to make himself visible, John. He's got to make himself a productive part of this team, which unfortunately, for whatever the reason, he hasn't done.
Dominic, I think you raised a good question, though. I think this is why I love taking calls, because it gives us ideas for other things we could talk about. Who are the guys, Dominic, besides Hyatt, that you were thinking about, and then Paul and I will give ours, that you're thinking about that could be up now, coming up for our second contract?
Definitely McFadden. I think he's really coming to his own. Who else? I'm not sure how many years Banks has left, but I have a lot of hope for him.
Yeah, but so right now, what you're looking at, heading into their last year of their rookie deals, you have Wan'Dale Robinson, you have Kayvon Thibodeau, but of course he got the 5th-year pick up, so he is another year after this, and you have Evan Neal. So
correct.
Those are the main guys, and Micah McFadden, I think, is a great one, and that's one I would not be surprised. We could see an extension for him at any time, in my opinion. I think he's a valuable player. I could see that coming at any time. So, no, I think, Dominic, I think those are all really good names. You look at that rookie class, right, and you try to figure out who from that rookie class, Joe Shane's first one, that is playing well enough where they're going to earn that next contract.
Cordell Flott has been injured too much that I don't think right now, unless he is able to stay on the field and produce, I don't necessarily he gets one.
I feel like that's a guy that probably gets to free agency, and then if you get him back at the right price, you take him back at the right price type of deal.
Yeah.
But again, it depends. Maybe he has a great year this year, and that changes mid-year. Who knows?
Yeah, don't know. At this point, though, I would not say he's not an early tie-up. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Thibodeau's definitely a situation, because I think between the pass rush that we have and the fact that he's going to be able to take some plays off and be able to go full go when he is in. I would love the guy to have a superb year, but at the same time, I don't want to pay him Brian Burns number.
You don't have to. They picked up the 5th-year option on Thibodeau. You don't have to worry about that for at least another year.
Yeah, he's not going to hit free agency in theory until the spring of 2027. Correct.
Right.
And at that point, worst comes to worst, if you really don't, got to decide, you can franchise him, then tag him too if you have to. So you have options.
Sure. And that's the other thing with Tay Banks too, right? Banks had a slump last year. Wasn't as productive as he needed to be, did not have the curve continuing to go in the right direction. He needs a bounce-back year. But the beauty of it is, because he was a first-round pick, John, you could always slap on, the 5th-year option on him down the road.
Now, while he's not up for a contract, Dominic, coming up this offseason, the Giants do have to make the decision on the 5th-year option next offseason. So this year will be really important for Banks as the Giants try to decide whether or not they want to put that 5th-year option on him. So it's important for him to have a big year.
He does.
But, Evan Neal did not get the 5th-year option put on him. He did not have a good enough 3rd year to get that 5th-year option. Kayvon Thibodeau showed enough for them to give him to activate his 5th-year option. So this is this is a huge, huge year for Hyatt, a huge year for Deonte Banks, and by the way, a huge year for John Michael Schmitz heading into his 3rd year.
Yeah, that's fair too. That is fair,
it's that draft class. You're all heading into there. We talk about taking 3 years to judge a draft class, right? Everybody from that draft class, from Banks to Schmitz to Hyatt, throwing Eric Gray and Trey Hawkins and Jordan Riley, who are still on the roster. These are guys that have to step up here and in their 3rd year start to become the foundational type of pieces you wanted them to be when you drafted them.
As much as I hate to say it, not one of those guys has been on a steady progression upwards. Every single one of those guys has had a bit of a rocky road, has had flashes, has had inconsistencies. Not one of them has consistently been the high-level producer or raised their level to the point where you could say, hey, you know what? These guys are the man. There's always been that stretch of play where it hasn't happened.
Dominic, you got anything for us, pal?
I'm sorry?
I said, do you have anything else for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly transition to the O-line real quick.
Sure.
I'm excited that Evan Neal's switching to guard. I actually played against him in high school.
No, you did not. Really?
He was a freshman. I was a senior. He was the starting right guard. He must have been 6'6", over 300 pounds. Another fun fact, his older brother was the center, and he was also like 6'5", over 300 pounds. So between them, they were like 13 feet, 800 pounds. It was ridiculous.
What position did you
I mean,
play?
I'm rooting for the guy.
But were you along the defensive front?
I'm sorry?
Were you along the defensive front that had to go against them?
No, I was a linebacker. So,
Okay.
I didn't think I got pancaked once.
Wow.
I imagine that must have been unpleasant.
Yeah, I mean, degrading. I'm a senior, you're a freshman, and you're like 250 pounds heavier than me. But
wow.
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping he works out at guard. You know, he won't get tackle money, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping he works out. And then another thing, I saw a report that Azudu was, I know it's just OTAs, but Azudu's taking left tackle snaps again. And I'm just thinking in my head, haven't we seen enough of that? Can we just put him at guard?
He was doing both, Dominic. He was playing
Yeah.
guard and tackle.
Okay.
He did both.
Yeah.
Appreciate the call, Dominic. Good stuff, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you, pal. Awesome. Always good to hear from first-time callers. A good call.
Looks like Okeechobee High School.
Okeechobee.
Okeechobee.
Yep, that's correct.
Down in Florida.
There's a great Giants Life episode, by the way, where they went back with him
Yeah.
there
I
to
remember
visit,
that.
and a lot of the offensive linemen came down there with him to his hometown. So a lot of people should go check that out.
Wow.
Evan's a great dude, man. Like, his teammates all love him. Like,
He's a good guy.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
I hope he figures it out.
Absolutely. No, and hope he figures it out now. I hate to see him figure it out maybe next year after he might be on another team.
You hope he takes. I think people have made the Eric Flowers comparison. I think the better comparison is the Mekhi Becton comparison.
Yes.
Just think about it. They're both really huge guys. Mm-hmm. You know, Neil never had like weight issues like Becton had coming out.
No.
But they're both larger offensive linemen, 340, 350 plus. Mm-hmm. That's their natural body type. With length. And what else did both guys have their first few years in the league?
Injuries.
Ton of injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they both started to tackle. They both got shifted into guard. Mekhi Becton just got a nice contract to go play guard for the Chargers, if I recall correctly.
Did he sign with LA?
I thought he
I don't remember that.
Double check. I'm pretty sure
I will,
Becton wound up with the Chargers. It makes sense. Jim Harbaugh, you don't think he wants a 350-pound guard running over people?
Oh, yeah.
I believe he went to the Chargers.
Went to the Chargers.
He did.
He did.
So that's the path you hope for Neil.
You know,
where you get him in a guard, he plays well enough, and please stay healthy long enough.
I know.
Where the Giants then can re-sign him next year. You get him on a good, solid contract. You don't have to his point, you don't have to break the bank for him. And you get him and you have a 20... Remember, he was young coming out, too. He's, 24 years old now? Mm-hmm. So he came out when he was 21, 22.
He did.
So sign him to a nice contract to be your starting guard at 25 years old next year? What's wrong with that?
Oh, if it turns out that he has a terrific season, if he wins the starting job out of training camp and plays really well, there's definitely a chance that they would sign him back.
Or, Paul, even if he doesn't win the job out of camp, an offensive lineman always gets hurt. Yeah. And he's the first one off the bench, and he comes in, and he shows he can start, and then they stick with him for the rest of the year. That's fine, too.
But just to make sure to clarify what John was saying about Eric Flowers, that guy just had a really bad attitude about a lot of things. And they had asked him to play guard, and he said, no, I'm not going to do it. Evan Neal...
He was very disagreeable about
Very disagreeable. Evan Neal, who originally was like, I'm a tackle, that's where I belong, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. But now it's to a critical stage where the team needs him to make this move, and he's been agreeable.
Yep.
And that's the difference. Eric Flowers didn't want to agree to anything to the point where they finally said, okay, you're not helping, you're hurting, you're cut. And only then, when his NFL career was hanging by dental floss, because, nobody was going to touch him, did he agree with the Dolphins and with Washington to wind up moving a guard.
And then he still ended up being, he's out of the league, right?
Right now, I think he is. I don't think he's in the league anymore.
I don't think he was in the league last year. Look up the last time Eric Flowers played. I bet you the last time Eric Flowers played was 2020.
Yeah, I don't think he played last year either.
Maybe 2024 he played.
His last season was 2021.
Wow. Was it really?
Yeah.
And he started 16 games that year and then never played again.
Yeah.
So how many years? 7 years?
Well, fully, yeah.
So he was out of the year before he was 30 years old.
And
by the way, that's not a lack of talent.
No. This is what we talk about with the intangibles.
Here's the thing. If you have a guy that can start 16 games for Washington in 2021, 14 in games for Miami the previous year. The fact that no one else goes and signs that guy that's still in his prime as an offensive lineman, with the scarcity of offensive linemen in this league,
the size and strength that he had,
it tells you all you need to know.
Correct.
Like, for example, Matt Parrott. He's still kicking around. He's the swing tackle for Denver, right?
Mm-hmm. He is.
Like, he's
a good guy.
No, but
real good guy.
Being a good guy in the locker room and being agreeable to a lot of things and being a good teammate goes a long way when you're a backup. Goes a long way.
Absolutely does.
Long way.
It helps you stay around without question.
All right. Sorry, I don't want to dump on Eric Flowers. That wasn't my goal there. I wasn't trying to do that. I apologize.
And we're not, but we're telling the truth. There's a difference between his situation and Neil's.
Yeah. I think you look for the Becton. You hope that he takes the Becton path.
Because
no one's ever says Becton's a bad guy.
No.
He might be a little, maybe not locked in all the time with the training and the weight and all that stuff, but not a bad guy. So you hope he takes that trajectory. All right.
He's got himself a ring.
Eric in upstate New York wants to talk about the play calling. Eric, what's going on?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We're good.
Hi.
So, one thing, the first interception in the last OTA was Dane Belton.
It was Belton off the deflection. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that.
And it was a pick six, or it would have been.
Yeah, it would have been a pick six. That's right. Mm-hmm.
So I had a question about the play calling. Everyone's saying, is it going to be Dable? Is it going to be Kafka? Is it possible that they could both call plays during a single game, or is that not even an option?
I don't think you want to go there. Generally, look, can you have it? Do I remember? Paul, you tell me. You've been doing this longer than I have. Do you remember a play calling switch mid-game before?
No.
And Paul's been doing this for 80 years. He was covering it when they were calling plays without headsets.
The only thing I will say, John, that was very good. The only thing I will say about that.
Remember, they used to have to sub guys in to bring the plays in.
Yes.
That's what they used to do.
Well, usually it was a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was a tight end, but usually it was a wide receiver. You also had then the hand signals, which was coming from the sidelines. Then technology caught up and said, well, let's put a speaker inside the helmets. Let's go that way. So,
when did that start, Paul? Do you remember when that first started?
Speakers? Oh, my goodness. The speakers has got to be...
As long as I can remember.
I want to say the speakers go back to the mid-'90s, maybe the mid-'90s, possibly early '90s. You'd have to look that up, John.
I'm going to look that up.
Anyway. But the point to your question, is it legal to have two play callers? Yes, it is. Can it be done? Physically, logistically, sure it could be, but I don't think you want to do that. I can't remember any team ever swapping off play callers during the course of a game.
1994, Paul. Good memory.
There you go.
Good job.
Yeah. But here's what I will tell you.
Communicate with each other, too? Like,
what's that?
Dable says, I would like to see this play here.
Well, yeah.
And
that you can do.
And that happens all the time. That happened when Kafka was calling plays in Dable's first couple years here, where Dable would have a heavy impact, not only in the game planning during the week on how you want to attack, but when you get to game day and the defense is on the field, damn straight Dable and Kafka are talking about, all right, well, let's try to get to this play on the next possession. Let's try to, start with the run or start with the play action. Those conversations are happening throughout the game, Eric. No doubt about it.
And that goes back a long ways. Parcells used to have Ron Earhart in his headset all the time. And even though Earhart called the plays as the offensive coordinator for those Giants championship teams, Parcells could chime in and veto.
I'm going to go even,
do what he wanted to do.
I'm going to go even more contemporary for the fans out there.
Tom and Kevin Gilbride.
I was thinking Tom and Ben McAdoo. Because when Ben McAdoo came in here, and the reason I don't want to use Gilbride is they ran the same system, right? And that was Tom's offense.
And Tom never once overruled Gilbride on a play.
But McAdoo came in, brought in a whole new offense, right? But Tom was still, and I think you saw it, once McAdoo took over as head coach, the play calling did change a little bit.
Yes.
Because you lost Tom's influence. There wasn't as many downfield shots. There was a lot more pure West Coast stuff, and you had less of that downfield stuff in there because you lost. Remember, Tom Coughlin was an offensive coach. You lost his influence on McAdoo as a play caller when McAdoo became head coach. So, Eric, no doubt about it, the play caller calls the plays. But if the head coach is an offensive head coach, he absolutely has an outsized role on how they attack the defense on any given game.
Put it this way, he's definitely going to throw his oregano on the pizza.
Yes, correct.
Excellent. And I just wanted to say one more thing. Last year, when you guys did the preseason, you took calls from people and see what they thought the records were going to be. Charlie gave a really bad record prediction, and he was right, and it's all I could think about all season. Oh, my God, Charlie's right. And this year, please, let's win some games. I know Charlie's thinking 3-16 again this year. Let's get
that doesn't add up.
So Charlie can't be right. I just want us to prove Charlie wrong. That's my goal for this season.
All right. Appreciate the call, my friend. Good stuff. Always good to hear from you. Well, Jermaine, I'm going to get to you, but since he said the name, I got to bring him on because that's just what happens.
I suppose you do.
Someone says the name, and all of a sudden he's on the phones. So let's go to Charlie in Portland, Maine. Charlie, you don't have to give your prediction yet. You
You appear like a ghost out of a haunted house, Charlie. You always seem to be right around the corner.
Now, see, I always think of oh boy, what was the name of the horror movie? The Candyman, where you say the name. Oh, Beetlejuice works too.
Beetlejuice.
Candyman is the horror movie where you say Candyman 3 times and you look in the mirror and he pops up behind you and he kills you. I was thinking of that. But yes, Beetlejuice also works. And Beetlejuice is also a smaller guy, so I think that makes sense for Charlie.
Absolutely.
Well, I have to say to the last caller, yes, I was right. And I will give my prediction right now. 5 wins, tops. So that's what I see.
I think that was more than you said last year, right, Charlie?
No, I don't think so. I think I said 3.
That's what I'm saying. So if you have more this year. You have 5, which is an improvement.
That's higher.
Well, I'm saying 3 to 5.
Oh, no, you have to give a number. You have to give a number. You got to give a number, Charlie.
Got to be a number.
Now, you don't have to give it now. If you want to wait, you want to get a feel for camp first.
Yeah,
I don't need your number now. I don't need your number now.
Looking at it, I only really saw 3 wins, and I figured maybe we got lucky in one or 2 games. But
that's
whatever.
A win. That's a loss.
I mean, Charlie, they're not even hitting yet. Do you really want to pin yourself down to this? Because we will absolutely fry you like an egg when you're wrong. Trust me.
Well, that's all right. I've been pretty much right about what these guys are going to do. But let me say that I just want to do a quick thing on Neal.
Yeah,
Neal is a bust. He was a 7th round pick. He was picked as a tackle.
7th overall pick.
Now he's playing guard. He's a bust, just like Flowers was a bust. So we picked 2 offensive linemen, tackles who were supposed, and even Pugh was supposed to be a tackle, and he ended up a guard.
Well, Charlie, I'll put it this way. Charlie, hold on. If Neal ends up being a good starting guard, does he fall short of expectations of where you drafted him?
Yeah.
Fair. Yes.
Right. Correct.
But I would not. A bust means you have a player that is not useful to you. So I would not call him a bust. I don't think that's fair if he's a good starter for you at guard, but would he fall short of expectations as the 7th overall pick? Yes, I think that would be fair
Charlie,
to say.
You're old enough to remember Eric Moore was a bust.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Okay, he was a bust.
Eric Flowers was a bust.
Eric Flowers was a bust. Now, William Roberts, and I know you know the big dog. Do you remember when he came out of Ohio State? And the Giants made the trade with Washington at the end of the 1st round to go up and get him. He was supposed to be a tackle. And what happened? He didn't work out real well at tackle. It wasn't. He wasn't playing well. He had some injuries. They were flopping him around, right tackle, left tackle, try a guard. He was not working out. And then a couple of years later, he became a Pro Bowl guard.
Yeah.
So don't be so quick to be labeling Evan Neal as a bust. That would not be fair to him.
Well, my definition of bust is a little bit different than you guys' definition of bust. I think if you pick a guy 7th in the whole NFL draft and you pick him as a tackle to be a tackle in your offense and to be there for 10 years and to it's a bust to me. But we can move on.
No, but Charlie, if he ends up being a 10-year starting guard for you, again, you want to call that a disappointing pick? Yeah. I can live with that phrasage. Yeah. That's fine. Yes. I got no problem with that.
Yes.
Bust to me means complete, utter failure.
John,
it means he flamed out.
If he was a guard, you think we would have picked him at 7?
Doesn't matter.
And that's why it didn't meet expectations and it was a disappointment.
Yeah.
No question.
Right.
Bust means useless player.
Correct. Bust me. He flamed out, and he was of no good to you at all, and wound up not even landing anywhere else. I mean, even Eric Flowers, to some degree, is a tad better than a bust because he did start for 3 straight years for other teams.
He did, but for the Giants,
he was a bust.
Yes.
But as an NFL player, he at least gave somebody something for 3 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
Eric Moore didn't do anything for anybody.
All right, let me just talk about Hyatt a minute.
Sure.
Now, I read an article. It was from a pretty good source. I think it was ESPN. That Hyatt and the front office and the coaching staff have been having issues. He's been in their doghouse. And, we keep talking about wide receiver 2. Where's our wide receiver 2? He's your wide receiver 2. You moved up, gave up 2 draft picks for him. You put him in the doghouse. Why don't you let this guy play? Why don't you actually play him? I don't know if this guy has actually played more than 5 snaps in one time in a game because they always put him in, take him out, put him in, take him out. Look, this guy has talent. And what I'm going to say is, if you're going to keep this guy in the doghouse, you are not going to utilize him in his strength, then why don't you trade him or release him? Let him go somewhere else so he can actually play, and he will play well for another team.
Charlie, I'm going to caution you. No, because I think your premise. All right, I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Yeah,
but then you give me a chance to fix something for you because something you're saying is a little bit off base. But go ahead.
All right. All I'm saying is, why, if you, and I think you could trade him and somebody would take him for a 6th-round pick or 7th or whatever, 5th, who knows. But if you're not going to utilize this guy and you're going to keep treating him this way and you really don't think he's part of your team, then let him go. Release him.
Well, Charlie, the bottom line is this. They don't think he's a better player than Darius Slayton.
Well, that's the issue. Why did you bring Slayton back? I would have never given Slayton a contract back. I would have said, Hyatt, we went in and got you, gave up 2 draft picks. We know you have talent, and we're going to actually utilize you this year. We got Rusty Wilson, and you're going to be fine. We're going to make you. Where's our wide receiver coach? Who is he? He's supposed to be good, isn't he?
Charlie, look, I think that should inform you of the fact that Hyatt has not shown them enough that they would put that much faith in him that they wouldn't bring Slayton back.
They don't like his attitude, and he's in their doghouse.
Okay,
so
hold on now, Charlie.
John,
this is where I gotta hit the pause button, Charlie.
Why are you wasting time?
Charlie, no. See, you're going with an incorrect premise, though. This is where I gotta hit the pause button.
Go ahead, Paul.
We are in the building all the time, even during the off season. We see Jalen Hyatt. And we see Mike Groh, the wide receivers coach.
They're working one-on-one all the time.
And they're working all the time. He is not in the doghouse, contrary to whatever you have read, okay? Whatever fantasy storyline somebody has made up, he is not.
It was ESPN.
Again, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie. We got to run, man. Appreciate the call.
We're here every day. He's not in the doghouse. He's a well-liked individual.
He's a number 4 wide receiver.
Who breaks his butt to try to get better all the time. Now, it is a mystery as to why he has not broken out and had the kind of career they want.
Look, in
I don't dispute that.
We warned people coming in that he was going to be a project. That's why he dropped to the 3rd round.
Well, he was as skinny as a rail.
Well, and he didn't come from a pro system in college.
He did not.
Look, Charlie, has it worked out? Has he been as productive as you would have liked? No, obviously not. We're not going to argue that point with you. But I guess we can go through what our definitions of doghouse is.
Well,
but has he shown enough where the coaches are willing to just put him in there and then play him? No, he's not there yet. But
no.
Look, it is. But he just hasn't surpassed Slayton yet, and that's the guy he has to surpass, right?
Look, he's a good kid. He's eager to learn. As we have just said to you, Mike Groh, the wide receivers coach, and him spend an awful lot of extra time together consistently. A guy who's in the coach's doghouse doesn't get that individual extra attention. He just doesn't.
Right.
He does. And oh, by the way, he sits next to Wan'Dale Robinson in the Giants locker room and is well liked in the locker room with his teammates. So please don't just read something that you saw somewhere online and think because there's a brand name behind it that it's accurate. That's not the way you want to be.
All right, let's get our 2 final calls in here. We got about 7-8 minutes before we got to roll. Let's go to Jermaine in Florida, who has waited patiently. Jermaine, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey guys, it's actually Julian in Florida.
Oh, I'm sorry, Julian. What do you got?
Not much. Not a new caller, but I'm proud to say it's been 9 years since my very first call here. When we
thank you,
visited
Julian.
Norris,
Cool.
Jenkins, Vernon, all that stuff. So I'll wrap this up quickly. I don't know why I always get on when Charlie's on, which just ruins time for us, but it's all good. So I wanted to ask a couple questions to you guys, and I'll make it quick. Just coming out of the draft this year, where are your comparisons? And I'm asking you guys, just what you guys think. Where would you put Dart compared to the quarterbacks coming out of college last year? The Penixes, the Bo Nixes, and the Calebs and whatnot. If those 5 quarterbacks were coming out and Dart was part of that class, where would you put him? Also, I had another question. I'm losing it now because I was lost in Charlie's.
Okay, so Julian, hang with us. No, Julian, hang with us.
I'll let it go off air.
No, Julian, hang with us. We'll answer your Dart question. Then maybe when we're done, you'll have that other question back in your head.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair. Thank you.
For me, with Dart, he probably would have been at the end of that group. To be honest with you, coming out, I would have had him. So the top 3 guys: McCarthy, Nix, Penix, right? Those are the 7
I didn't even
guys.
think about McCarthy. I was thinking Caleb, Jaden, Drake, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and I didn't even think about McCarthy. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
those 7, I would have had Dart after those 7 guys.
Yeah. Last year I was all about May and I was all about Bo Nix.
Right.
I probably would have had him behind Ward this year, and he might have been if the 2 classes were combined, he might have been my number 4.
He would have been ahead of Jaden Daniels, Paul. Come on.
I didn't like Jaden Daniels.
Come on.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't like him.
Oh my gosh. You got to get that through your priors, dude.
No, because everybody has their own frame of reference and what they want in a quarterback. He did not check all my boxes. I was not a big fan.
Why?
Well, a lot
Paul,
of
I know why. It's because Paul, you like that more traditional
But he was an accurate passer.
he was a very accurate passer, but
his deep ball is very accurate. Correct. Yeah.
very accurate deep ball. Yeah, I was not convinced. All right, when you look at the typical pocket passer model, which is what I'm still stuck on because most of them win Super Bowls, right?
He did complete a lot of passes from the pocket last year.
He did. Well, yeah, but see, to me, he outperformed what I thought he would do.
No, I understand. I'm talking about his last year at LSU. He completed a bunch of passes from the pocket.
In retrospect, he's a lot better than I ever thought he was going to be. I admit that. I respect what he's done. Heck, Jalen Hurts has turned out to be better than I thought he was going to be. You can be wrong on a guy, he can outdo your expectations.
Right.
I was not a big fan. I think what I didn't like was his short stuff. I did not like his ability to feel the pocket very well. I didn't think he had really good instincts back there.
And by the way, that he did have a high sack rate this year again. So that actually I think is real.
And people would say that if you do that in college, you're probably going to have that same timing issue in the pros.
No, that's fair.
That did show up.
No, it did show up a little bit. You're right about that.
So
the problem is that he's such a good athlete, he can make up for it and get out of it anyway.
I know. But as you know, and I said this about Mr. Giants quarterback, Daniel Jones, I don't like my quarterback having to run that much. Jaden Daniels was very willing to.
So is Jaxson Dart.
I know, and I'm hoping that he doesn't have to.
Loving Paxton Lynch coming out of college. Was I right on that? I remember that you were such a big Paxton Lynch guy, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, I was not a Paxton Lynch guy. Paxton Lynch guy. But the thing comes down to this. Everybody likes a different flavor of ice cream. I'm not saying that he couldn't play. I'm just saying if I wanted him. Look, I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to love this, John, because you're a basketball guru and junkie too.
Go Knicks, by the way, baby. Woo!
Yeah, right?
Good win.
You guys remember James Worthy?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I loved James Worthy. James Worthy played the kind of style of basketball, the whole Showtime, and the ability to sky above the rim and to make crazy passes and to block shots and to play defense and to get out on the break. I loved James Worthy. I did not personally like Larry Bird. Larry Bird was a much better player. But if I'm rooting for a guy on my team, I liked James Worthy better. Now, but I hope that gives you an example. It's not about grading the guy's talent
Paul,
or ability.
You're so genuine about
It's
it. I love it.
about
No,
who
I
you
know.
like.
I know. I love it.
I love James Worthy.
You're so genuine. And it's like you know you're wrong, but you don't care because you like what you like.
Well, because
Schmeelk,
Larry...
Paul's birthday's coming around. You know exactly what basketball jersey to get him in a frame is a nice...
Oh, man.
James Worthy.
But the question
By the way, guys, I'm going to let this off the air. I know there's one more caller waiting, but I appreciate your answers. I
thank you,
Julian. Enough to know that we got to let others go.
Nah, good stuff, Julian. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
The question is not always, well, who's going to be better? The question is, who do you like?
Right, no, I got you. I know, I got you.
Those are two different questions.
I'm more interested in who's going to be better if I want the Giants to win more football games.
And that's fine. That's fine. Look, I get it. But when the question comes out to who do you like,
all right.
And you know how much I love.
Every time we had this discussion, I learn a little bit more about Paul Dottino. It scares me a little bit more.
You didn't know I was a big James Worthy guy?
No, I did know. I just meant about how you think about why it's almost more important. Like, this is the first time you ever said to me, it's more important who I like and the style that I like than it is who I think is going to be the better player. That's the first time you verbalized it to me that way.
Well, because here's what I would say. When you get asked a question about who would you like and who do you like better and who would you want, you have to put your personal preference into that equation. That's got to be part of the context. Look, I never liked Aaron Rodgers. Never liked Aaron Rodgers. We all knew when he came out of Cal, he was going to be a first-round pick, and he was going to be an all-star player. I never liked him. I knew things about him because I knew somebody who was a teammate of his. So I knew a lot about Aaron Rodgers when he was coming out of school. And it wasn't good.
Is that a former broadcast partner of ours?
Yes.
Okay. I don't hear this.
And so, I talked to him a lot about Aaron Rodgers, and I knew a lot of stuff. And he was a defender of him, by the way. But I was like, I get it. He's going to be a great player. He's going to be a star.
You just didn't want to deal with it.
I don't like him.
No,
I wouldn't want him on my team.
No, this is why, Paul, I like having these conversations. I get to see how how the gears are set up in your brain. They're misshapen and all over the place, and they're terrifying at times. But at least I'm getting a better feel for how you come up with some of these answers.
Just
sometimes.
remember, it is two different questions.
No, I know it is.
And so, and I think a lot of people kind of, they overlap the questions and think one actually means the other, but they don't. Who do you like as compared to who do you think is going to be a success in the league are two different questions.
All right, so I'm going to make sure we phrase those differently to you then. So how about this then? If I was to make you rank the players based on who you thought would be most successful in the league, how would you rank them?
Well, given if they were to land in the right system,
assuming they were to land in a good system,
I think Dart probably would have been 6 or 7 if you combine the two classes. But for my preference, he would have probably been number 4.
I got you. No, and see,
those are two different things.
That's a good answer. Well, I think when people assume you like a player because you think they're going to be good. You know what I mean? They don't think that you like a guy even if you don't think they're going to be good. You know what I mean? I think that's why people get confused with the way you talk about it. I learned something today, though. Now I understand.
I'm glad.
I know how to phrase questions for you a little bit better.
Now you can be as demented as I am.
It's only taken me 20 years to figure it out, but I got there. 20 years, Johnny Mac. 20 years it took me to figure that out with this maniac. 20 freaking years. That's how long it took.
Oh,
all right,
mighty.
Len in Columbia around want to wrap us up today. Len, you got about 5 minutes here. What do you got?
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you. Just a quick comment on Charlie's topic. Too many players, and let's pinpoint it, too many picks during this regime that haven't met expectations that have put us in the hole we're in.
The first two classes, you've had guys that have not hit as much as you would have liked them to.
Yep, that's true. Mm-hmm. That's true. But there's still time for those third-year players.
Yeah, I should have added yet.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll say
correct.
Yet. But that's what's put us in this hole.
Yeah, no question.
The real reason I called, Paul, you got a call from Wilson yesterday. I think it was the last call of the day. Mm-hmm. I always like Wilson's call. I mean, knowledgeable guy who, geez, talk about passion. Just really loves the Giants. And I thought he asked a really fair question yesterday at the end when he said, Paul, when are we going to stop talking about player improvement and start talking about winning?
That's a fair question.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fair question.
It's a fair question.
Sure it is.
I'm going to give Wilson my answer. I think you guys already know it because we've discussed it a couple of times since January, but I'll repeat it again and suggest that, Wilson, this is where I stand after all these years following the Giants. First, let me say better times are coming. But I'm looking at 27 guys. The Giants are a year away from being a year away from the playoffs. There's going to be a coach here in 27, maybe it's stable, who's going to be a very lucky man because this team is going to be good. But we're in a hole, guys. It's going to take time. I don't even want to think about wins.
Len, I think the defense right now is ready to win. I think they have enough talent on defense today to be ready to win. Now, we'll see if it's good enough, but I think the talent on the field should be good enough. Are some of the guys a little young still? Maybe. But I think for sure 26, that should be a group that is ready to win. The offense, specifically with the quarterback position, is still something that we're figuring out.
That's fair.
Okay, I differ with you a little bit on that, John. Obviously, from what I said.
Right.
But then let me. But
no,
then
but Len, to your point though, look,
John.
the defense might be ready to win, but maybe the offense is so not ready to win, it negates what the defense is able to do. So you could be right about that.
So
Len, let me add one piece to this puzzle for you.
You talked about it a little bit last week when you were comparing them with other teams in the division at wide receiver. Well, you got a great call last week, by the way. That I didn't think it was going to turn out very well, but it really opened up some really good discussion. There was the guy who called and talked about free agents in 26 and 27.
Yeah, it was a good call.
Yeah, very good call. And you brought up the point. You thought wide receiver was something that we needed to, pinpoint going forward because you said after Neighbors, there isn't much compared to the other three teams in the division, and that's where we stand all along the offense, Sean. Now maybe Dart surprises us and he comes along quicker. I mean, Russell is a stopgap quarterback. I mean, we really got to count on Dart and hope that turns out.
Sure.
But let's see where Tracy goes. I think we need a big-time running back.
I think between Tracy and Scatterbo, Len, I feel good about the running back moving forward.
Every team that wins has a tight end that hauls 50 to 55 passes.
No, Len, I said it. Len, I said it the other day. Tight end to me is a very interesting position. That doesn't mean that it's good yet. But I think it has an interesting group of players that I would like to see develop. But to your point, they're not there yet.
Yeah, no, and the offensive line. I mean, Van Roten's not. I mean, he's not going to be there past this year, even if he gets the starting job.
No, there's absolutely
we're wishing and hoping on Neal. Illumina's got one more year on the contract.
Absolutely.
We don't know what's going on with Thomas.
Still work to do there.
Schmitz, it's catastrophic if it doesn't work out.
Still work to do.
Want to go spend money on Linderbaum next year, which we should have been thinking about. Well, of course, he didn't fall anywhere near where we could have drafted him. But
Len, there's a 25 season to play before you get to any of these headaches, right? Why don't you just sit back and enjoy 2025 and hope for the best and try to watch some wins before you worry about what they're going to do in 26 and 27? Why are you doing that to yourself? Seriously, why?
Why am I doing that?
Well,
because you got a question on the show yesterday where you think, when is winning going to become...
No, Paul, I get why. He wants this team to challenge for playoff spots and championships, so he's thinking about how they get there.
It's time, and I think it's going to be 27. We're going to build toward that point. Let's hope these draft picks start working out.
All right. Here's that part.
We're in this hole.
Here's the part to the equation that I wanted to give you.
Stars have not lived up to expectations.
No, that's true, Len. That's true. That's true.
Let's go Yankees this weekend. It's a great sports weekend
beat the Dodgers,
for sure.
And in the end, let's go Giants. Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Len. All right, Len. Awesome stuff. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, only because I've talked to Coach Gabriel, who handles the special teams here. The Giants invested some very serious efforts into enhancing their special teams this year. In fact, their goal is to win special teams every weekend. That's their goal. I think, and getting a guy like Board from the Ravens. Coach, look, I'm going to tell you, I said this once before on the show. I'm going to say it again. Coach Gabriel told me he was the number one special teams free agent on the board.
Who, Combre?
Board.
Oh, Board. Oh, I thought you meant rookie undrafted free agents.
No. Veteran free agent on the board. Board was the number one guy from the Ravens, the inside linebacker who plays special teams. He is a monster on specials. They signed 3 other guys who they feel really good about on specials. That's 1/3 of the game. It changes field position.
Not
for
1/3 of the game.
I know how you feel.
No, it's not.
It changes field position for your offense and for your defense. The bottom line is they believe that they've got enough talent now on specials that they can win that part of the game every single week. That's going to have an impact.
Hey, look, I don't want to tease it, but starting next week, I think it's next week or maybe the week after, we're going to start doing our NFC East position rankings.
Right.
So to Len's point, we're going to do our rankings. We're going to see where the Giants stand in the different position groups.
Yeah.
And see where they are. So that'll be something we start doing next week right here in the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. Don't forget, folks, another impactful draft. We got the schedule, free agency. It's going to be an exciting 2025 season. So take your fandoms to the next level with a season ticket membership and catch all the action at MetLife Stadium with an exciting home schedule. With a membership, you will stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days, exclusive member access and benefits. To learn more about the Giants season ticket membership program, go to giants.com/tickets. And of course, you can find all our content on the Giants YouTube channel, Giants app, giants.com, and Giants TV, which you can find on all your smart TVs like Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Giants mobile app, all that stuff. It is all our content, video stuff. Make sure you go check that out. And I mentioned the Giants Huddle podcast. We talked about Baldinger, went up earlier in the week. Bob Papa, I did 25 minutes with him yesterday. That's up there. I'm also starting to roll through now the assistant coaches for our draft picks from college. Marcus Satterfield, the tight ends coach, is up there from Nebraska, and then Marcus Johnson, who is Marcus Bowe.
Yes, Bowe.
Marcus Bowe.
Yep.
Offensive line coach from Purdue last year. He's now with Ohio State as an analyst. That's up there as well. And next week we have Gundy, the head coach of Oklahoma State, where Black went, the cornerback they drafted in the 7th round.
Corey Black. Yep.
That's done, coming up next week. And then Jason Candle, who's the head coach at Toledo. I had him too on Darius Alexander. I'm hoping to get Cam Scadabo's running back coach, Sean Aguano, today.
That would be nice.
From Arizona State. So those will be rolling out over the next couple of weeks in the Giants Huddle podcast. Make sure you check that out. For the meantime, thanks for joining us on the Big Blue Kickoff Live. I have too many shows. Presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. For Paul Dottino, I am John Schmeelk. Hopefully we'll be talking on Monday. When we talk to you, we'll be talking about a Knicks Game 7 on Monday night.
Hope so.
Going to Indiana, play well, try to steal one, and then hopefully we'll be talking about a Knicks Game 7 at the Garden on Monday, and I'll come back a zombie or dead on Tuesday morning, depending on how the game goes. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you next week on Big Blue Kickoff Live.